like to call this evening's Design Review Board meeting to order. We are going to wait, I think, for a couple of minutes. But since we're recording this and we have some people that might be joining via Zoom, we're officially opening the meeting, but we'll give Suzanne and Jim a couple more minutes to get here. Thanks for your patience. Should we just go, so we have a quorum, you want to just go ahead and knock out some of the administrative stuff at the beginning? All right. All right, we're just gonna go ahead and in lieu of while we're waiting for them, we're going to do a roll call.
Board Member Rosner,
Here.
Board Member DiLorenzo. Here. Vice Chair Chong
Here.
and Chair Kim and Chair Malat are not here today.
All right, thank you. Now is a chance for any oral communications for any items that are not on this evening's Design Review Board agenda. You have 3 minutes. Again, these are for items that are not on this evening's agenda. Please come forward if you're here in the room, and then we'll go to the Zoom call. If you could, if you're on the Zoom call, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen to indicate that you'd like to speak. All right.
There are no oral communications hands raised on Zoom.
All right, seeing none, staff briefing.
We have none tonight.
All right, thank you. Moving right along. Now to the minutes for the January 18th meeting. I think we'll do these separately. So first, any comments on the January 18th minutes? None? Do we have a motion to approve those?
Motion to approve the minutes from January 18th.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. And we adopt the minutes from January 18th. Now to the February 1st Design Review Board minutes. Any comments on those? Nope.
No.
All right, a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. And with that, we adopt the minutes from the February 1st Design Review Board meeting. Moving right along, we will go to the consent calendar. First item on this evening's agenda, or there's only one item on this evening's consent calendar. It's CC1, which is the adoption of the resolution denying the appeal for 283 Cecilia Way. Is there a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
Motion to adopt the resolution to deny the appeal for 2 83 Cecilia Way.
And do we have a second?
Second to that resolution.
All right, and all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. And with that, the one item on this evening's consent calendar is it's approved. And moving right along to public hearings. PH 1 is our first and only hearing this evening. It's for 757 Tiburon Boulevard. The way we do the format is if the applicant could come forward and you have up to 20 minutes to present, at which point there might be some questions. We'll also open it up to the public, allow folks to come up and speak. If you wish to speak on the project, you'll have up to 3 minutes. And then the applicant will have the opportunity to come back up and address any of the concerns that was raised by the public. They'll have 5 minutes. And with that is the applicant for 757 Tiburon Boulevard here. All right, come on down. But yes, please, if you could come up, introduce yourself. There's a timer on the television just to keep an eye on your 20 minutes.
Sure.
My apologies.
So my name is Betty Lee and I'm with TMK Builders. We are doing the design at 757 Tiburon Boulevard. And I'm here on behalf of the TMK Builders and the owners, Bente Hansen and Bill Deere. So thank you for reviewing this project. So I guess, so is just presenting the design or is it to address the issue with the?
It's kind of your 20 minutes to
Okay.
present how you want
All
to,
right.
it's.
So the design of this is basically an addition at the rear. The owners are an elderly or aging couple. Bill is also a disabled veteran. So it was really important to keep this addition all one level and keep the house at one level. They did not want to go up to a second level for that reason. So they decided to go into the rear and add square footage in the rear. Part of the addition was constrained by the setbacks. So right now they're constrained by the rear and the side setbacks. So right now there's 268 square foot addition in the rear and an additional 218 foot addition at the front and side. So they didn't expand too much in the front because they did want to keep the front elevation scope as minimal as possible, especially from the view on Tiburon Boulevard. I would say that the changes are not very drastic. The change in probably the height is the most different, where the roof height is raised 3 feet. Part of the reason is that the in keeping the livable space, maximizing the livable space on the lower level, on the single level, they were trying to keep that space as living space and some small room for exterior storage space. So the change in the roof changed from a 4 and 12 roof to a 5 and 12 roof so that they could put the HVAC up above and the equipment above, which really just maximized the amount of living space they could have. Let's see. So again, the HVAC is put in the roof or put in the attic space. So right now the roof height changes from a 4 and 12 to 5 and 12. We feel that this is pretty minimal considering that this property is actually allowed a 30-foot maximum height, building height. If you look at the surrounding properties, the 2 adjacent properties on both sides are 2-story homes. So keeping this height at a single level is really, we feel, keeping the changes very minimal in height. Also, due to the budget costs, they are trying to keep it one level as well. conscious of the square footage of the existing walls. So they are maintaining at least 50% of the existing walls, which would also be considered not a substantial improvement. And I guess lastly, we just like to point out that that there is a drop in grade at the front. And so the house itself is there's a drop in grade of 30 inches. And so the house itself is actually just a little over 16 feet tall. And so considering the surrounding houses next to them, they feel like this is the minimal impact on Tiburon Boulevard and keeping it single level at 18 foot 9 inches from the lowest grade level. I think that covers our points.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I have a couple.
Mm.
Just to confirm, is there any change in the finished floor height?
No change in the finished floor height.
Okay. And is there any change in the interior ceiling height?
No,
Okay.
the ceiling height's 8 feet and they're keeping it 8 feet.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, the mechanical equipment outdoor storage on the floor plan, was that explored at all for the HVAC system?
The exterior storage space is really something that they needed for just they have no garage on this property either. So it's really the only exterior storage. So to keep that was important as well, which is one of the reasons why they wanted to put the equipment up in the attic level to maximize basically the ground level space. The 10-foot addition in the rear kind of is constrained by the rear setbacks. And so there's not a lot of actually living space that they're adding. It's mostly just the pushing it out the rear and to the side a little bit for more living space. So it was important to keep the exterior storage space there if possible, because there's really no other storage space on the property for as far as any storage or garage.
Okay. And are there any other reasons other than just the proximity to the setback that the HVAC wouldn't be able to be in the rear from a functioning standpoint?
It's mostly, I think, just the fact that there's no garage on that property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do. You stated that the maximum height now is 18 feet 9 inches of the roof line. And you're saying that's only a 3-foot change?
Yes, right now it's 15'9". So the roof pitch changed from 4 and 12 to 5 and 12, which just increased the roof, the building height to 3 feet more.
Okay. I think I'll have some questions in a minute.
Any other
Go ahead,
questions?
I'm done.
Any questions? All right, with that, we're going to open up to the public. So we might bring you back here in a second.
Okay,
Yeah.
should you go back?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
If anybody from the public wishes to come up, please come up, and you have 3 minutes. And if you could state your name and address.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Klein. My family has lived at 757 Hawthorne Drive for 14 years. 757 Tiburon Boulevard is between our house and Richardson Bay, specifically directly in line with the Golden Gate Bridge. I'd like to begin by thanking the members of the DRB that came to our house, and thanks to all of you that are listening tonight. We first learned of the proposed project when the story poles went up. Immediately, it became obvious that we would lose a significant portion of our Richardson Bay water views from our kitchen and deck. Furthermore, all of the bedrooms on the lower level of our house and our yard would lose the entire view of the Golden Gate Bridge and the Marin Headlands. We looked at 110 houses before we purchased 757 Hawthorne Drive. But once we walked into the kitchen and saw the amazing views of Richardson Bay and the Golden Gate Bridge, we wrote an offer right away. The rest of the house was okay. It was kind of strange with the subterranean bedrooms, but the views from the kitchen and the family room were what sold us. In fact, anytime anyone new walks into our kitchen, they always say, wow, those are amazing views. Much of the value of our home is tied to those views. We spend a significant amount of time in the banquette area of our kitchen where we eat all of our meals. Our kids do their homework. Jack and I read, and we frequently entertain. I spend a lot of time observing the incredible bird activity in the bay while preparing meals. Over the years that we've lived here, we've witnessed many remodeling projects and new construction in our neighborhood. The precedent in our neighborhood is for property owners to dig down to protect the views of the properties behind them if they wish to raise the roof. As I mentioned before, our kids' bedrooms are all subterranean for this reason. The prior owner of our house dug down in order to preserve the views of the properties behind it. In fact, the property behind us doesn't have any view impact from the water from the way that our house was built when it was remodeled before we bought it. We feel that we should be granted the same courtesy. If you drive by 757 Tiburon Boulevard, you can see that the property is raised up from the road. If the owners would like a higher roof, they should dig down. Otherwise, they should keep the roof at the same height so that our views are preserved. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Additional public comment? That's it. No, yeah, we're gonna take all the public comment first.
Good evening. My name is Jack Ryan. I'm Sarah's husband. I live at 757. I appreciate you guys hearing this tonight. And I won't be too duplicative, but I just want to talk a little bit about sort of consistency and precedence. And I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job, but like, given what Sarah said about the precedent being set in the neighborhood and how everything has, that uniformity has persisted across the neighborhood in terms of people digging down. That's why we feel it's reasonable to expect that here, that they wouldn't go up. I thought it was super interesting hearing Ms. Lee speak tonight, because there's two things. Like one, it's interesting that they're raising the roof line, but gaining almost no benefit themselves. And so I think that it would be interesting to contemplate a way to get the HVAC sort of out of the geometry of our view, if we could. I know Community Director Tassini is not here, so we might as well start granting variances while she's not here. But certainly, we could support the uniqueness of their property in getting the HVAC somewhere else if they could get a variance for that, because that would be a win-win for both of us, I would think, because then they wouldn't have to go up. And, we have no objections to sort of the footprint of their house or the setbacks. That's just not of concern to us. So I don't know if there's a way to finagle a variance, but anywhere but sort of raising the roof right in line with the Golden Gate Bridge would be key for us. And then the other thing that I thought she said that was super interesting was like, hey, the other houses are really high, so we just want to raise ours. And I'm concerned because that's sort of a dangerous precedent in terms of if then after they raise the roof, the next house is like, well, look, that house is pretty high. Like the view is there. We're trying to protect it. I realize there are higher houses elsewhere within the landscape there, but this is the view we're trying to protect. So for us, it's a fraught exercise to begin comparing it to other houses around it, because it just leads to sort of a never-ending war of just a little bit more loss of view. Anyway, thanks for your consideration, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Additional public comment? We're gonna hold, if there's nobody here, we just go to the Zoom call real quick. Sorry. Yeah, so if we're on the virtual call, could you please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen to note that you would like to speak, and we'll let you into the room.
Vice Chair, there's nobody on Zoom with that raised hand.
All right, now we go. And if we could set the timer to 5 minutes, please. Thanks.
So I guess just in response to some of the comments, one of the things about digging down is the substantial amount of money that takes. That's a huge budget increase. One of the reasons why the owners were keeping it as single level is they are on a budget. They're an aging couple. They'll as a veteran, and so they don't have the money to go down deeper. This would also probably put them over the substantial improvement percentage, which triggers fire sprinklers, and just, it would just be out of their budget to do that. Again, I just want to emphasize the fact that the two adjacent neighbors are 2 stories. So the fact that they're raising the roof 3 feet, they feel is really minimal, considering that they can go up to 30 feet. And the idea of doing a variance is a great idea, but we also understand the time and length it does take to do variances. And so they would like to start building this as soon as possible as well. Thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? All right.
I
Thank
have
you. Oh, sorry.
Just what kind of impact do you think you have if you keep the roof height where it is?
Keep the roof height, well, their main objective was basically just to put the equipment above so that they can maximize their ground space. They're already going back to their rear setback, and their side setbacks, they're already met. So that's basically why they're raising the roof, to try to keep the equipment from off the ground and using it for storage and for living space.
But adds no value, as you said, to their views, et cetera, anything to the house other than the,
Except for maximizing their living space.
And were there any HVAC options that would fit in the, like a lower roof? Is it just the size of the HVAC? I'm kind of wondering what was explored on that front.
Yeah, the size of the, Tom, do you have the size of the HVAC? No, yeah. We haven't really, so I think that we just went with, from the roof pitch change from a 4 and 12 to 5 and 12, thinking that it would definitely all fit up there. Again, I think we were just coming from the fact that they could have done, they were originally looking at what they could do, and having a maximum allowable height of 30 feet was a huge increase. And so they thought 3 feet is so minimal for what they're trying to do, and just trying to maximize their addition and their usable living space. So I think that it just comes down to the fact that they feel like they're doing a minimal impact on the height for what they're doing, what they're allowed on their property.
Is it my understanding that you are taking the roof off then and changing it to a 6 and 12?
To 5 and 12,
5
yes.
5 and 12, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the board. Would anybody like to lead us off? All right, start from the side.
So I visited both 757 Tehran Boulevard and the neighbor 757 Hawthorne. And it was a great, I appreciate the applicant, Mr. Deere, showing me around this morning and talking to me about the objective of why the roof is raised. And it's purely because of the mechanical equipment, which I think there are a lot of solutions that may, as been kind of floated already, that we could kind of pursue or guide the applicant to kind of go down that route. I do think the 3 foot increase on paper sounds like it's not that much of a height increase, and it is a very big impact, in my opinion, to the neighbor in the back, especially in their flat yard. It adds bulk. There is some view obstruction from the kitchen, especially kind of around the kitchen area table. But the biggest thing for me actually walking around the property was the bulk that 3 feet adds when you're in the yard, and you just completely eliminate the headlands in the background. So I think it's it is an impact, and knowing the impact is coming solely of a function of trying to fit mechanical equipment in the roof due to kind of the constraints of both the lot and the setbacks, and you know, dealing with on already a conforming structure that is already, I think, 4 feet into the setback. I get that the applicant was, you know, trying to fit everything within the current zoning standards and not wanting to, and thinking this easy solution didn't have that much impact, you know, because how will they know, you know, 100% what just putting 3 feet, you know, would impact the neighbors, but it kind of did a little bit more harm than I think they may have thought, versus just maybe going the route of exploring a variance, or something of that nature. So, as I see, I think there are a lot of things to consider with, you know, what they're, the objective of the redesign, and really doing an efficient floor plan, and seeing what other possibilities there are to put the HVAC system on the ground, you know, without raising the existing roof height, whether that be in the existing mechanical and then having, you know, exterior storage in the form of a shed or something like that, or you know, if there are findings for a variance in a future application, which hopefully is not a big process for the applicant to consider. So that's kind of where I am.
I guess I would just really echo what Alex just said, that the mass effect of that 3 feet is very impressive from several angles, from the home, especially the yard area. To explore a variance for the HVAC, I think you have to look at that and have to do that. I would not support that roof height and that design, but I would love to see if there could be some way to incorporate that with, like I say, what is brought up with a variance.
I agree with what Alex and Jim have said, but I'd like to add, you have a roof elevation that has more visual mass than the rest of the house. So if you look at options to design, there are limitless options, but you could go to a flat roof or a low pitch roof like a 1 and 12, or even keep the 3 and 12 you have there. But going up 3 feet damages your neighbor's view dramatically. And that view, as they have stated, is a significant part of the value of their home, probably measured in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. So since you have other options, and putting an HVAC system in there, so many of them nowadays that you can put outside, inside, under a part of the house if there is a crawl space. I think you have many options, and I'm convinced that as an architect, you should go back and start over again. Personally, if I were doing this house, I would probably suggest a low slope roof, like a 1 and 12. It gives you much more elegance and space inside the house, and it would give you less volume to the house overall. In any case, I couldn't support the project the way it is. It does too much harm to the neighbor.
All right. So I'm in a very similar place. You know, I think that it's, if 3 feet was what was needed, for example, to go from like 8-foot ceilings to 10-foot ceilings or something like that. But given the fact that this is really just an area to store mechanical, and there's, you know, as Jim mentioned, there are definitely other solutions, be it relocation somewhere else on the property. I want to say that I do respect the applicant's attempt to try to keep everything within, you know, within guidelines, you know, respect the fact that like, it's not easy just to like, oh, we'll just go down 3 feet or something like that. That can be a very costly endeavor. So I appreciate the applicant at least taking an attempt to create something that would fall within the guidelines. But I definitely, you know, been on the board long enough to see enough variances where, hey, it makes sense because it's minimizing the impact on other portions. You know, without having an application for a variance, we really don't want to comment on it. I would say though that, you know, there's definitely been times when we've been able to make findings for variances. So, you know, that kind of fall into these type of situations. That said, I also wonder if there's a exploration of just a different type of HVA system or something like that, a different spec that might be a lower profile one that would still fit up in the roof, give them essentially the exact same design that they have today with just a lower roof profile. But yeah, to have it go up 3 feet with really no benefit other than just location of some mechanical doesn't seem like it makes sense. So sounds like we're all in the same place, which would be, I think, a continuance to allow the applicant an opportunity to, you know, to make some changes to the design that, you know, I think it was pretty clear the biggest concern we had was just the impact of the view of the uphill neighbor. And
Yeah.
then-
Yeah, did you want to
and
say?
then, yeah,
All right, I have one quick question just for clarity for staff and for the applicant. When you're and I hope I'm okay with asking this, but when you're referencing a variance are you I know that's not what's on the table for review tonight. Mechanical equipment can be located in a setback. So if it's a standalone, just mechanical equipment, it can be in a side setback. It's very typical. It can be in a rear setback. So even if it encroaches and it's standalone equipment, a variance wouldn't be required unless it was like concealed in some sort of enclosure that was taller than 3 feet or in some sort of outdoor shed. So I just wanted to get some clarity on if a variance, or if you are exploring other options, they wouldn't necessarily need a variance.
okay.
So just side note.
I do have one question for staff. What are setback requirements for exterior shed?
They cannot be located in a front or side yard setback. They can be in a rear setback. As long as they don't occupy more than 25% of the rear setback area and they're no more than 12 feet in height.
Also, just let the record note that Suzanne Kim has arrived. And would you like to comment on the project if you had a chance to visit the site?
I did, and I did a drive-by. I think it sounds like I'm probably in the same direction as y'all, so.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to vote because I wasn't here for the public hearing, but I will abstain to make it fair.
So I guess I'm wondering without a variance, which would definitely require us to have a continuance, right? Without this, so since the mechanical moving it wouldn't affect that, is there also the possibility, just in the spirit of moving the application, that essentially approval that with a specification of the roof height, since it seems like that's kind of the one issue that everybody has?
So you're saying the
So-
one option is do a conditional approval of lowering the roof height and then defer to the applicant if they want to, for example,
Either fit into
put it in like the current mechanical thing and then add a shed, or come back with a new application with a variance.
Yeah, I mean, so our choice is either like approval with a very specific condition that we're all comfortable with, right? From height or whatever, or specification of mechanical, or a continuance, and then the applicant can kind of go and if it's okay, I think I'd probably maybe just ask the applicant to see if they have a preference.
I'd like to see it come back because the applicant will have to have new story poles, for instance, and it should
Right.
be
Yeah.
made obvious to the neighbors that they're not being impaired. I think it's not that much of a hardship to come back versus.
And since it wouldn't require since it wouldn't require variance, then yeah, we can probably see it pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not comfortable with just a roof height alone. I need to see a new roof and new design. Yeah.
Just
The only thing I want to ask the group, we were pretty, I think negative with the feedback with respect to the roof. With respect to the rest of the project, does anyone have any other comments? Are we generally happy with
Yeah, no,
every other aspect other than the
I
roof
was,
slip and the-
yeah, I was generally okay with the rest of the project.
I don't think there's anything in the ground level that's impairing any of the adjacent properties significantly. And I walked around part of the house and saw it from the back and both sides, so I think the only basic issue that's glaring is the roof. And there are so many options to do the roof over again. I think it would be fairly simple to redesign that roof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. I-
Matter of a few hours.
Sometimes we give a lot of feedback on one specific thing and it kind of makes that the whole project
Yeah.
but it is this one issue that I just wanted to clarify for the public that we were happy with the rest of the project. It's just the roof height and slope has to revert back.
Yeah, and roof mass. Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, could we get a date that would be a continuance date?
So the permit streamlining deadline is April 25th, and it already has been extended. So the next available upcoming meetings, the next meeting is March 7th, but that may be a little tight because you would have to have revised story polls up by the 26th. So I think it seems probably more likely either March 21st or April 4th.
Does the applicant have a? Yeah, basically, if there was a variance that was needed, it would just basically come in with the revised set of plans. So that's something that's handled with us. I guess what we're looking for is just kind of the date and the amount of time that you would need in order to redo the plans and story polls. So sounds like March 7th would be a pretty quick turnaround, and I think the recommendation was either the second meeting in March or first meeting in April. April, so that was April the what?
April 4th.
April 4th. So it looks like we were looking for a continuance to the April 4th meeting.
Okay,
Do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
All right, and a second?
second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Abstaining? One. All right. And with that, 757 Tiburon Boulevard continues to the April 4th meeting. And I'm sorry, was there a permit streamlining that we need to worry about?
It was extended to April 25th, so we'll still be within
We'll
it.
still be within it. All right, excellent. Thank you. With that, we adjourn. Thank you, everyone.